Happy June, sisters. I hope you are doing well and that the month is starting well for you. Today we're going to talk about working with male co-workers. Now, when we were doing SSU, I used to be very rigorous in telling you, okay, you cannot mix love and education. The two don't go together. But now you're out of school, you graduated, you're entering the workforce, and you are surrounded by males. I think there are some people that have met their husband in the workplace, but today what I want to talk about, that even if we're going to meet our husbands in the workplace, there still needs to be a right attitude that we need to have towards male co-workers in general. We still need to be respectful, we need to be respectable, and we need to just be firm in our faith in the Lord and just have that attitude that glorifies the Lord, and not to be in terms like in quote unquote loose when it comes to our relationship with our male co-workers. If we need to talk about working with men, sisters, trust me, I am the one that you should ask questions, because I don't work in a male-dominated company. I work in an all-men company. Like, in the entire company, there are only 2 women. Can you imagine? 2 women. So I remember when I was taking this position, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is not right. I should not be here. I was very, very apprehensive. And my sister said, look, if this is where God wants you to be, He will take care of the rest. You just have to follow His leadership. And the first day of work, I was so uncomfortable, but this is where I work. So I've learned that working with men, as a woman, you have to be very careful, because men are visual. That's just the way they're made. They are very visual, and sometimes, or most of the times, they receive what would I say? They believe in the wrong signal or something. Like, okay, let me explain myself. So for example, if you are very friendly with a man, I'm sure you've experienced that. If you're very friendly with a man, to the man, he will think that, oh, this girl really is into me, she likes me, and he will start reciprocating that with a kind of more not like a co-worker love, but it will be more like an intimate love, because he thinks like, oh, this girl who always smiles at me, I think she wants to tell me that she wants me, but since she doesn't have the courage to do so, let me step up my game. So men are very visual. They have the wrong signals, or they understand signals in the wrong way. And as a woman, and especially as a woman of God, you need to have your dignity. You need to keep your dignity as a child who fears the Lord, that you're not going to work to be, like I said before, loose with the men, but you need to keep your stand. And it's very, very important, because in the former and at my former workplace, back when I was still living with my parents, I was also working in a male-dominated company, but the ratio of men over women was kind of, all right, because we were about like 7 to 10 women over how many men that were there. I remember when I was working there, I was very friendly with a co-worker. He was from Africa, and I was like, oh my goodness, he's from Africa, we're both from the same continent. And for him, he felt like, oh, the way that I was being friendly to him was for me, like I was hitting on him. So men get things a little bit twisted, so that's why we need to be careful. One thing I want to say, and this number one point, it doesn't just pertain to working with male co-workers, but it pertains to being just a Christian worker in general. We need to do our work well. Honestly, sisters, I get so frustrated, and I'm tired of our fellow Christian friends who are in the workplace, and they spend all their time preaching, oh, you must be born again, you must be born again, you must do the will of God. But then when it comes to just doing the work, they slack. They are either wasting time on Facebook, wasting time texting, they are coming to work late. No, seriously. I want to read a passage in Ephesians 6. It says, verse 5, "Bond servants, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in sincerity of heart as to Christ, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, with good will doing service as to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatever good anyone does, he will receive the same from the Lord, whether he is a slave or free. It says here, be obedient to those who are your masters, because part of being a woman of God in the workplace is to set up the right example, that we are working well. And here it says in verse 6, not with eye service, like we're not trying to please men in the way that we're doing, but we are working well, diligently, for the glory of the Lord. And whether it is your male co-workers and your female co-workers, they will see that and they will respect you for that. It's part of keeping that dignity. It's part of keeping that good image of what it is to be a Christian worker. We need to, first and foremost, we need to glorify the Lord in our workplace. We need to go above and beyond. Again, this doesn't mean that I have to be working extra late at work or coming extra early at work, but in everything we do it for the glory of God. We do our work well. We are respectful to our co-workers. We are respectful to our boss, no matter how rude they are, no matter how disrespectful they are. But the first and foremost thing to do is to really honor the Lord. And here it says that we must be obedient to our masters. We must do the will of God with from the heart. So this is number one. That's very, very important. We need to honor the Lord at the workplace. And this, a lot of people observe us, a lot of people see what we're doing, and that will be a great testimony to our faith. Dress code is so important, sisters. Do not take this for granted. If you wear uniform at work, great, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're like the rest of us that do not wear a uniform, this is something very important. I stated earlier that men are visual. One of the mistakes that I did in my former company, where I was working in a male-dominated company, is that I was not careful with my dress code. When I say I wasn't careful, it's not that I was wearing mini skirts and I was showing my cleavage, no, but there's a certain way that you dress, even if you're covering everything, it's still not glorifying the Lord. Now, last year or 2 years ago, I did a video. Please, sisters, I'm begging you, please check out that video if you have not, because in there I show some specifics about, even though we are covering everything, but it will still be inappropriate. For example, if you wear a top that is very tight to the body and you have your bra, even though you've covered everything, but your bra line is still visible, your bra line is still, you can still see your bra line, especially when you turn around, people can still see where the bra starts, where the bra ends, and things like that distract men. Okay, it distracts men. Men are visual, and when they see that, do not be too casual with your talks with men. Honestly, sisters, that is something I have learned that works against us. When I say, what do I mean by do not be too casual? Meaning that you need to be very careful in your talks with male co-workers, in your discussions. Keep it professional. If you want to talk about life, you just talk about things that are mostly, talk about the news, politics, and things like that. But do not get deeper into the other stuff. What is the name of your wife, and how many children do you have? How do you feel today? How do I look? Do you think that this dress looks good on me? Like those kind of talks that get way too personal, that it opens other horizons. Please just keep it nice, simple on the surface. Now, I understand that for at times you may find that male coworker that you can probably look to him or look up to him like a brother. Okay, in the company where I currently work, when I came in, I said, okay, girl, you need to be very, very careful in the way that you talk with the males who are here. But I found two male co-workers who, there's one that I look up to him like a big brother, and he looks up to me like I'm his little sister. And there's another co-worker that he's like my little brother. So those are the only two. So there's one who's like a big brother to me, and the other one is like a little brother to me. So with those two, I am more I would say relaxed in my conversation, because it just happened that they're really like, I wouldn't say that they're really like family, but they've helped me a lot. But still, even though I look up to them as, I look up to one of them as a big brother and as a little brother, even though I still keep my dispositions, I still am careful in the way that we talk, and making sure that we don't go overboard, like, things that are way too personal. But with those two, for example, I joke around with them a lot. And when I say joke around, the jokes are mainly about what's happening at work, and what's happening with our customers, for example. So we joke around, well, on those topics, but we never go beyond that in terms of, okay, let's get deeper into the personal life. So that's what I mean. Don't be too casual with the men, because like I said, men always get the wrong signals. Don't be alone with your male coworker in a room or in a car, or have like a one-on-one time together. Now, depending on the nature of your work, I know that some of you're probably paired with a male coworker and you have to work together on a project or things like that. That is understandable, but then if you have that time when you have to work together, just be very alert and about the surrounding. If you have to be in a room, and if you can open the door of the room, that's fine. Whatever you need to do, just be careful and make sure that this doesn't happen on a regular basis. Do not find yourself alone with a guy in a car, unless it's for professional reasons. They're sending you on the field and you have to drive together. If you have to drive together, yeah, then. But if it's not necessary, please take your car and both of you drive separately. But just be careful. Just really be careful. I would never suggest having lunch with a male coworker, just the two of you. I mean, if it's with other coworkers that are there, yes, but I would never ever, because lunchtime, it gets more casual, and lunchtime is that time when people don't want to talk about work, but they want to talk about other things. So you're opening more, again, that horizon to go over beyond what is necessary. But just be very careful. Like I said, it all depends on the nature of your work, but if you don't have to, then don't do it. Physical touch, the hugs, the kisses, the rubbing of shoulders, rubbing each other's back. Sisters, please do yourself a favor, stay away. When it comes to that, I usually just shake hands with men. When it comes to my female co-workers, we will do anything. We will kiss, hug, and do everything, because it's just between us women. But with the men, just be careful. Just be careful. I know there are some coworkers that are like, oh, why are you not hugging me? But for example, at work, okay, at work they don't really hug much, but then when there's one that wants to hug me, I'll be like, just give me your hand. I only shake, and jokingly I would say, oh, I only shake men's hands, I don't hug them. So jokingly I say that, but it's actually a way for me to just get away from the hugs. So because that physical touch, you know, I'm not saying that every man that you will hug it means that you want something from them or they want something from you. I'm not saying that, but at times you have those men that, again, they like that physical touch with women, and to them it's more than just giving a hug. For them it's other things. They're kind of, you know what I mean. So just stay away from the physical touch as much as you can. Stay away from the physical touch. Please get my point, sisters. I'm not saying that you should be strict with your male co-workers or you should be distant with your male co-workers. All I'm saying is that as a woman of God, we need to have the proper attitude when it comes to working with the men. Now, one may say, you know, okay, you've listed all these points, but what if your husband is in the workplace and the way you're behaving with the man, he sees that he can't really reach out to you? Like, how is he going to even approach you when you have all these guards? Right? That's a legitimate question. And my answer to that is this. It was a few years ago, I watched a movie. It was a Christian movie, and in the movie there was a Christian man who was describing the way that he met his future wife. He said that when I met her for the first time, I could see that she was a woman that wasn't really easygoing with men in general. She had, you know, all her disposition towards men, and, you know, she wasn't really, you know, all out with men. And even when I tried to speak to her, she would speak to me, but not in a disrespectful way, but she was just, you know, she just had her own disposition, her own guard. And this is what the guy said in the movie. He said that he admired that. And when I was listening to that dialogue, to this guy describing the way he met his future wife, that led me to understand that a real man of God will appreciate a woman who has the right attitude towards her male co-workers. Because if we are loose, if we are easygoing, if we're just doing anything and everything with our male co-workers, then the Christian potential husband will say, oh, this is a woman that is very all out with the men. Even if I were to marry her, I'm not sure, you know, how she will, even as a married woman. If already as a single woman, this is how she behaves, I'm not even sure how she will behave as a married woman. But the Christian man who is working with you in the workplace will really respect you, and he will find that very attractive, that here's a woman who has the fear of God. She knows how to behave herself among men. This is a woman that I can trust. Even if we're married and she's working in a male-dominated company, I have no fear, because as a single woman, she knew how to behave herself among men. How much more will she not do as a married woman? And that is the attitude. Because we are not to be easygoing with the men just because, oh, I don't know who's going to be my potential husband among my co-workers. I need to just be open and do everything and everything, anything and everything, just in the hope of meeting my husband. No, but as what attracts the Christian man is to see that this is a woman who has dignity. She has self-respect. She knows how to carry herself with the men, and she's trustworthy. And that's what we should remember. She's trustworthy. And sisters, it doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't get better than that. Whether we will meet our husband in the workplace or not, we are to glorify the Lord in everything that we do. Again, I will repeat it. I'm not saying we should be strict with the men, but we should have dignity. We should give God honor in the way that we behave with the opposite sex. So we should be very, very careful. So in everything we do, that God be glorified, that God be lifted up. Again, I'm going back to all the points that I mentioned before. First and foremost, we need to work well. We need to honor the Lord in the way that we work. Number 2, dress code is very important. Number 3, avoid the casual talks with the men. Number 4, don't be in a room alone with your male co-worker or co-workers, and avoid those one-on-one. Again, that all depends on the nature of your work, but if you don't have to do it, then please, sisters, don't do it. And last but not least, the physical contact and touch, please avoid it. Until we see you again, sisters, next time. Stay blessed. Bye.